live with Ryan. How's it, Drew? How you
Hello.
doing, man?
Yeah, good in you.
Good. Great to have you on the show, dude. I'm actually excited about this one. Because during lockdown, I was bored as hell. And I actually whipped out my PlayStation 2, and the only thing I have there to try was old Need for Speed and Gran Turismo.
That's where it's
I know, and I've been talking to guys in the US. We're actually interviewing RJ at the moment. He's from Big Red, and he's put a simulator in his office, so he can test racing from his offices. And he actually found Kyalami. So he sent me a video where he's busy playing Kyalami sitting in Texas at the moment, which is the coolest thing. Tell us who you are, what you do.
so well. Thanks. First of all, thanks for having me on the show. Quite epic to be here. I'm Ryan. Well, pretty much I have a marketing agency that kind of got me into the whole sim side of things. So I run a marketing and branding agency called Cranium Room, and 4 years ago we landed the Monster Energy contract. Then from there we've been working on Gymkhana Grid with the guys the last few years. So we've helped on the 2018 year. We helped build the actual track obstacles that were in the track. We design all the winners' medals and pretty much do all the branding around the areas. Then last year, I had a wacky idea to pretty much create the Gymkhana track in a video game, and landed up getting flown to Poland and training the drivers on learning the track. Then from there, I decided, well, this is, it's obviously picking up, and I've always been interested in racing. I mean, my family's been into racing since I was a kid. I used to kart back in the day, like in '95. My uncle used to own a go-kart track. So that's kind of where I started getting the feel for things. I mean, I remember even with my dad when I was a little kid, like 2, 3 years old, in the old school Scalextrics. So racing's been in the blood since a little kid. Then, yeah, like I said, last year with the whole Gymkhana Grid, building the track and stuff, I kind of realized sim racing is becoming quite big, and the whole esports market is becoming really big, and decided I want to turn that into an esports tournament. So I've been working on that for the last year. And then through that, a whole bunch of other avenues have been opening on the sim side. So kind of getting known now a little bit in, people asking what is sim racing? How do I go about getting into sim racing? The whole online tournaments and all those sort of things.
Yeah, so I mean, look, you made a comment when we spoke. Was it yesterday? You said that this lockdown thing has basically pushed sim racing ahead like 2 years or a year or something.
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously the whole lockdown, all the motorsport enthusiasts haven't had anything to watch. So all these guys, the Formula Ones, the Rallycross, all these guys have taken to the sim world to basically get all the celebs and famous people combining with all these esport races and putting them out on streams, etc. And the traction has just gotten so massive over the last month or two that, I mean, it was on the map in sim racing, especially in South Africa, was growing. But from the feedback I've gotten in the last month, you can definitely see it's like a year or two ahead of what it would have been.
Really? Now, explain to us exactly, and do a layman's term, what is sim racing?
So basically, it's the closest that most people are ever going to get to driving a real car on a racetrack. Motorsports, as you know, is obviously very expensive to get into. I mean, from the karting stages as a kid, if you want to start there, I mean, you can spend some teams are spending like R1 million a year just to have their kids racing. So with sim racing, I mean, all that you need is either a PlayStation or an Xbox or a computer. You get yourself a nice, decent entry-level wheel, something like a Logitech, and you pretty much can go race on any track in the world, in any sports car or Formula One car that you can imagine. And yeah, the physics and the simulation side of things as technology progresses is just getting more and more realistic. So now, like I do a bit of online racing in an F3, and just my suspension tabs in my car, I have 5 different tabs of suspension. So it's not even just getting in and racing anymore. It's actually, you got to kind of know how to race setup, your tire pressures, your fuel, all that sort of stuff.
Gran Turismo basically started this whole level of, I mean, that was the first game where you really one saw the proper graphics on the cars, and actually started getting the track systems and stuff right, wasn't it? And car setup as well. It was a lot of the game wasn't just about the race; it was about setting up for the race and stuff at the same time.
Well, the gaming goes back a bit before that. I mean, I remember playing. There used to be on Sega back in the day. There used to be an Ayrton Senna Super Monaco 2. And that was like very basic, but I mean, the tracks were more or less there. It was all 8-bit, and so you basically got hired into a team and had to work your way up in the team. Then from there, the video games obviously just progressed. I mean, yeah, then you started getting your what came after that? Your Need for Speed was a big one, but Need for Speed was a little more arcade. And I mean,
I had the Porsche.
yeah, exactly. That one was great. So Need for Speed, I think, started pioneering a little bit and getting the gaming side going. And then when the PlayStation launched and Gran Turismo came out, I think that's when things started really exploding and the realism.
That's what I mean. Yeah, the realism really kicked in with Gran Turismo. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, from there, I mean, the games have just gotten better and better year by year. Then I kind of switched over to Xbox at a point in my life, and I was playing Forza for a while. And the physics in that game were actually they actually helped me with my karting racing. So yeah, I've even seen with the real racing now. So I do a bit of karting now, and like I find I'm pretty much up there with some of the top guys. Never have raced like karting as a kid and stuff, and it's all from just time playing in the sim.
Really, but and Fonzo, that was something we were talking about. I was talking to Dan Khan in the US, and we were talking about the modern car guy and race guy, and how we grew up, because I'm old. We grew up at Kyalami, Tolton, racetracks, motor shows. That's where we were, and that's where our culture and car culture and everything came from. He was explaining that the younger guys, actually, their car culture comes from games like Honda and the Need for Speed series and this type of stuff. That's where everything, their whole mindset up on cars have come, and modifying cars, which is completely wrong because a lot of times they get it wrong in the game.
Yeah,
some cars that can't get supercharged.
Well, yeah, that's like, I mean, I play a lot of Assetto Corsa now, and they've basically come out with a new car tuning thing. So you can pretty much go grab an engine from another car and put it in the chassis that you want. So there's guys doing crazy things. I mean, we're busy doing a drift challenge kind of thing, and we've got a little Ford Escort with an RS4 motor in it. And so, yeah, I mean, so it's quite cool seeing what guys are doing with the technology and how you can actually change the games and develop your own cars and 3D model.
So are you guys actually creating games yourself as well? Are you guys doing the design stuff as well?
So on the design side, not the actual building the games, but what I did last year was for Monster Energy, I created the Gymkhana grid track in the video game Assetto Corsa. So pretty much a 3D modeling experiment that I did, and putting the obstacles into the track and using the Google API for the actual area and building it like a 2-scale version of their track. And then last year I got flown to Poland to train the actual drivers to learn the track, because I give my hat off to those grid drivers. They have like 5 attempts to learn that track. And last year being the longest track that they've ever had, it was very complex. So yeah, I kind of threw out the idea to Monster that let's build it. They loved the idea, and then the week before Gymkhana Grid, we had set up 2 racing sims in the hotel lobby where all the drivers were staying, and let the guys pretty much at night while they were having a beer or just before they were going to do something, they could come and actually just learn the track. And the feedback I got was very, very good.
Well, I mean, that's insane. But you've been seeing that a lot in Formula One and stuff as well, where the guys are practicing. They're sitting, and they sit weeks before the race or the race. They're in the sims and they're practicing that braking, acceleration, pointing markers, all this type of stuff.
Well, what's nice? Yeah, you get laser track scans. I mean, I think it's like 0.1 millimeter off the actual track. So every little bump, every little kind of crack in the road. Yeah, so that's why these guys are in these simulators. So you can imagine you can't just take out a Formula One in your day and go and cruise it around.
Exactly.
And if you look at all your big teams now, they've got their two drivers, and they've got a reserve driver that's basically just doing sim testing and running kind of different variations and kind of trying to see different pit stops or different strategies that they could run, and that's how they're training nowadays.
That's actually that's a massive game changer if you think about it. Here, because here you can play out scenarios throughout the whole game of anything that can, or throughout the whole day, you can set up and prepare yourself, your team for any emergency that goes into it. And like you said, pit setups and all that type of stuff. Then you've got stuff like we've got guys that want to come race Samoa Hill Climb. You know, you've got a lot more international people that want to go race there. We had Franco Scribante on the track on the show the other day, and he has to go to Pikes Peak. He wants to go race Pikes Peak. He says, but getting there, shipping a car there, getting everything into that side, you know, and not be sure. This way, at least he can get some track time in. He can know the circuit before he spends the money to get there to go race. You know, same with the guys that now wants to come to Samoa Hill Climb. I mean, that was something that Big Red asked us: is there any video of Samoa Hill Climb? Any something they can put on their system so they can test it on their side as well, because that helps, especially if you're moving a car from one country to the next. What setup you're going to need in order to get there, you know? So you're limiting. Well, instead of taking 3 containers, you only have to take 2. You know?
Yeah, that's it. Like I say, with those laser scan tracks, you pretty much on that track, and it's to scale. You know all the little bumps and stuff. So yeah, if you get a decent car that's pretty much like the car you're gonna race, you can pretty much drive around that track, and by the time you get there, actually kind of learn some of the landscapes and the marking points of where your brake points should be, and actually use it to learn what you need to. There's even guys in South Africa that are taking I think it's in I don't know what cup it is, but I know there's the one BMW driver who he has his whole rig set up exactly as his car set up. So before a track race at like Pekisa or all these places, he actually runs his tuning and his setup in the sim, and then they translate that to the real life.
That's insane, dude. That's absolutely insane. Where do you think? Yeah.
Sorry, on your cost side of things, like Gymkhana Grid, it's expensive to take their production around the world, so they're actually looking at maybe towards the latter part of the year to use the sim version in Australia to find drivers who can qualify for Gymkhana Grid, but in the simulation world.
That makes sense. Which means, because that means you can run tournaments all over the world, get the best drivers, and then put them in a real scenario, the later stage.
Well, that's hopefully the plan that I'm trying to do this year. So with that Gymkhana Grid track, I've dubbed it Simkhana. So I'm creating a tournament that should kick off in the next 2 or 3 weeks with Monza, an invitational, like you've been seeing with all the other streams of all the top athletes, Bagsy, Ken Block, the Solbergs, Andreas Backroots, all those guys, and pretty much to see how they adapt to the sim version. And then the plan is to run a league, hopefully for the last part of the year, to find the quickest Simkhana driver, and potentially try and get him to go through to the real grid and get a car sponsored.
Sheesh. That's insane, dude. It's absolutely the amazing thing is now you can look how can I put it? The only difference between the sim and real life is, in real life, when you crash, you die. You get hurt. But you can. It's interesting because now you've got guys that's probably been playing sim for years that you can put up against a professional driver, and they will do great going up against a professional driver. But when you put them in the car, you still need those balls to, accelerate.
Well, there was an interesting one.
Corner to life,
There's an interesting thing that happened last year was it's like the Formula E, the electronic Formula Ones. They took the guy who won their championship and basically gave him an opportunity in a real car. And the first race he was in, he won the race.
What?
Yeah, so he's got a seat then pretty much signed, sealed, just by pretty much winning the online tournament, getting to the real car, proving himself, and now he's got a seat in the real car.
I mean, because that's the argument that the guys are gonna go. It's, oh yeah, dude, you're great at a game, but when it comes to real racing, this is what's gonna happen. Like especially when it comes to Formula One, which you're hitting it straight at 300 k's an hour. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been in drift cars, with Jason and all these guys. I mean, yeah, hitting a corner and you're going sideways at 160. You can play a game as much as you want, dude. There's no thing.
Yeah, I agree. There's no way I'm driving at 120, pulling up the handbrake as I would in a game. It's kind of doing my thing. But I think it gives sim race. So you get a lot of obviously simulated and video games and stuff. So another cool example is Ollie Solskjaer. He used to use FIFA to pretty much run simulation games for the soccer, and that he pretty much won one of the leagues and that was his claim. Like he used to use FIFA to simulate games so that he could see his players, etc. But you can't go be a FIFA player now and put on a pair of soccer boots and go and try to be a football player. But with sim racing, it's pretty much, you do have a wheel, you do have pedals, so you're learning the art. Then you pretty much just have to get into the car and overcome the fear. And I think some guys actually, if they can bypass the fear side of things, there's a lot of talent in the sim world.
Well, that and the fact you can't pause to go pee quickly.
Yeah, true.
It's a small little creature comforts that just won't be there. Or your mom's not going to bug you to go do the dishes while you're busy racing. Where do you think it's going? I mean, where do you think sim is going? Moving. I mean, you're saying like we took a big leap. Do you think it's just going to grow? It's becoming more real. Do you think there's going to be more, especially after this lockdown? There's going to be normal Formula One and sim Formula One. Why do you think it's where this is going?
I see it getting bigger. Obviously, we can't really foresee what happens, but I'm hoping it stays on the trajectory it's going, because it's grown so much. And I mean, nearly all the monster athletes that I know of over this lockdown have been sponsored a racing sim. So they're definitely there's a lot more people that are going to be in simulators over this lockdown and because of the lockdown. So I think you are going to see the Formula One in conjunction with the esports F1. You're going to see the rallycross one carrying on. In my case, the whole drift side of Simkhana is getting bigger. So esports is massive. It's second in viewership to the Olympics. So it's definitely the gaming industry is even bigger than the music and movie industry combined. So if you take all those things into consideration, and especially with racing, my dream is to create like a gaming academy for kids who want to learn how to race. Obviously, growing up with a single mom, I couldn't afford to race as I wanted to. And I mean, I had decent talent. So my plan is to create platforms for kids to pretty much show themselves and do they have potential as being a driver, and hooking up some guy with some money and saying, hey, this kid needs a seat, put him in a cart, let's see what he can do, and developing drivers through the sim technology.
Well, it makes sense. Look at it, and you're right. Look at it. Does, you can find talent much easier, and it's cheaper because you're not physically sticking someone in a car to go head around the track. You can sit and you can stand next to them and talk and get through. Get through to them on the levels of what to do and how to do it. It really does make sense.
Even the racing, there's a lot more racing coaches now. You'll see there's a lot more sim racing coaches that are coming through. So you finish your race, you export your telemetry, and you pretty much send it to the guy, and he analyzes it, and he's telling you you're braking too early into corner 1, you're coming off the throttle too much in corner 2, come on the power earlier through corner 3. So the science behind it is, as we get better with technology and I suppose our PCs and the speeds of things get quicker, the faster that it can process actual real life scenarios. So I foresee in a year or two with, I just saw the new PlayStation 5 coming out and their new engines for
I saw that.
It's so epic. So, I mean, eventually the graphics are going to look super real. The physics are going to be pretty much spot on to real life. You're riding on laser scan tracks. So it's pretty much going to be the real deal. Then you throw in the virtual reality aspect of it, which is also becoming quite big now. So, I mean, it's so immersive. You drop on this thing and there you are. You're on Magello or Laguna Seca down the corkscrew and you feel like you're really there.
You're going to get to a point where all you're going to do is put a helmet on and that's it. You know, everything's sitting inside the helmet. You've got your full scenario track, everything sitting around you. You're not going to need
motion. I mean, now what's becoming quite popular are your motion rigs. So generally people have been strapping their steering wheel to their desk or buying a play seat or something. Now you're getting guys, I deal with a company called Insector Tech, local guys that build motion simulators. So he's got a 6-axis simulator that is insane. So you're pulling almost 2 Gs if you bank yourself very quickly.
What?
So, yeah, so you might not get the 4, 5, 6 Gs that you'd get out of F1, but you're getting a good feeling. So
yeah,
with VR headset and that stuff there, I mean, let's call it 80%, I think, of what you're going to feel.
Friends at Ace Customs, they've just they launched a sim seat. They started making some seats and stuff now as well. So you can start putting out. Like I said, it really looks like guys are getting into. This is now becoming. It just means there's a bigger need for man caves.
Yeah, that's it. The man caves have to be bigger. Well, my office, the lockdown kind of threw things off a bit, but I had ordered 2 of these motion simulators that I'm going to be setting up in my office. That's just behind us. Yeah. And yeah, so I guess if we keep in touch, we can put out some maybe celeb challenges and fastest lap times and get some people through, and let's do some racing.
I think that is a great idea. It's a great idea. Just get guys to start entering and start running a competition. That would be awesome.
We also have really good sim races in the country. So I'm part of a Sim Race South Africa online tournament, and I mean, there's some of the best sim races on there. So I'm like sitting like 6th or something in the tournament, and yeah, some of these guys are Polo Cup champions or they're from the background.
And you say, and you're not Xbox. Is that Xbox? Which Xbox are you using?
So I'm using a PC. For me, okay. The PC. What's nice about the PC, especially with the Assetto Corsa, which I use a lot, is the installation of different content. So you find a lot of free content online of different cars and different tracks, and there's guys pretty much developing something every day for this. Your other platforms that are quite popular nowadays on PC are your iRacing. So if you go check, all your top dogs are on iRacing. So okay. It's a little more strict racing. There's pretty much people online all the time. They run really big tournaments. If you've seen the rallycross kind of invitationals that have been happening recently, that's all done in iRacing. There's the Daytona 500 that's done in iRacing. For a South African, though, the barrier of entry is the cost because you're paying $1 for your monthly subscription. Where versus Assetto Corsa, where it's a one-time buy and you got a lot of free content. So that's why I lean a little bit more towards that one. Then you've got your other games that are, I mean, there's tons of games that are coming out now. You've got your Automobilista 2, you've got R Factor. So they all kind of vary slightly in physics and how they work. But at the end of the day, you pretty much, I think if you climb on one of the tracks, you could learn the track pretty well. Good example, I've been playing Kalami a lot and went around last year at the Festival of Speed. Pretty much got a lap around in a Fiesta and knew my way around because I'd driven so much time on the actual sims that I knew where my braking point should be, and I felt good around the track, knowing just from the simulator.
So I want to start doing this now. So what do you suggest? Starting off, what machine should I go buy? What game should I buy? You said the steering wheel, go get the Logitechs, and the Logitech one works. Console game, where do you think I should start? Personal.
So it depends really on your budget and how in-depth you want to get into it. With your consoles, your PlayStations and your Xboxes, so the Logitech G29 or the G920, it works on either your PlayStation version or your PC version. So that's kind of a good start. They generally all kind of USB plug and play work. So if your budget's a little bit lower, I'd suggest get a console, get the Gran Turismo or the Forzas, get a Logitech pedal set. and that's a good entry point. If you want to get a little more serious, I'd say look at getting a nice, decent gaming PC. It doesn't have to be nowadays with the Assetto Corsa Competizione coming out, they've got new weather models where it rains and there's day, night, and lights. So that's pushing your graphics card a little bit further along now. So a decent gaming PC, and then depends what you want to spend, because so the Logitech's your very entry level. It's kind of motor driven wheel. Then you start getting to your direct drive, which is pretty much real life feel. That's costing you though maybe like between 10 to 15,000 rand just for the actual little hub. Then you're paying another 3,000 for a different wheel. So that's what, so yeah, you can go to the one end of the spectrum where it's really professional. You get load cell pedals which feel like real pedals. But like I say, if someone to just get into it and stuff and they kind of want to test the waters, I'd suggest getting into the Logitechs, and there's a Thrustmaster is the step up from Logitech. Those I'd say are your two entry levels that are decent. And then from there you're looking at your Insecta Techs, your Simucubes and your Fanatechs. But if you go to like Fanatech, you're looking at like maybe 25,000 rand for a wheel.
What? That's absolutely insane.
But it's pulling like 20 Newton meters of torque. I mean, people are breaking their wrists when they crash sometimes because of the force that the wheel actually has.
Really?
So you want to talk realism, crash into the wall with one of those and you'll feel the pain.
So then that whole conversation from you're not going to get hurt falls away immediately. Dude, this is completely fascinating. So when did you say is your Gymkhana grid competition or Simkhana grid competition starting?
So we're planning to do it in about 3 weeks' time. We're getting all the invites are going out. Don't know who Monster's inviting just yet. So we're waiting for all the invites to be sent out and the drivers to confirm if they want to take part. We want to give them a bit of time to practice because real world to sim needs a bit of obviously adjusting. So hopefully in 3 weeks' time we should run it. I'll keep you posted. I'll send you some links and drop you some links once it's up.
Definitely, we'll push it through everything on our side as well.
That's appreciated.
Yeah, it's, I mean the much. Let's see, because I think this is going to be exciting. And like I said, it's will anyone be able to just log in to watch and see what's going on?
Yeah, it's going to be streamed. I guess it'll probably be streamed either off the Monster Energy channel or off the Gymkhana Grid channel.
All right. Okay, we'll get those links and stuff from Monster, and we'll put everything into that. I'm actually trying to get hold. Friends of mine in the US do big marketing for racing and stuff, and he's trying to get hold of the guy that actually did first Gran Turismo.
Okay.
Guy that started Gran Turismo, the first game.
Epic conversation.
Yeah, so we're gonna get him. We're trying to get him on the show, and because we were talking, one of their client is RUF, RUF, the Porsche guys, and we were talking about RUF because Gran Turismo, Porsche didn't want to give Gran Turismo access for their cars to put them on the game, but RUF did, which also worked the yellow bit, the 911. So we're trying to get a hold of to see, because I think that would be a great conversation to find out what they actually went through to put that first, like I said, realism, the massive realism they went through the game.
And that would be a very epic conversation for you to have. Just trying to do the little putting 3D models into the Gymkhana track I built was quite hectic. Now to actually go program and how the physics work and all that stuff, I can only imagine like what they went through to get it from.
Because to me, that was a massive jump. I mean, like you said, we went from the old Need for Speed times and that type of stuff, that massive jump into Gran Turismo. It was just huge. It was like a completely different world, from a racing perspective. Like I said, it's just everything. All of a sudden, you had cars that would lose it in corners, they would slide out, or you would brake hard and go into a wall where everything before that, it wasn't, like I said, that level of realism just wasn't. God, now I feel like I want to play PlayStation the rest of the day.
I'm even grab it. I'm in my sim again.
Exactly. Dude, dude. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. It was an awesome show. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Right. Okay, bro. Speak to you later.
Later.
Cheers, man. Bye.
Cheers.